Okay, so welcome to today's podcast, which is called Fixing Orthodoxy in the Twin Cities. And does Orthodoxy need to be fixed in the Twin Cities? Yes, it does, desperately. I'm saying this as someone who's lived in several different cities, and I can tell you we have a situation in our hands in the Twin Cities. It could potentially be very fruitful for all Orthodox Christians, but instead results in a bunch of churches being locked up all week and only being opened on Sunday, and people not being able to go and experience what it's like to have to do the minor celebrations, which are really, really important part of the church, and also celebrations to the Mother of God and the different saints, and as well as the fact that in America, there's a simple fact: a culture is developing around Wednesday night being an alternative to Sunday for people that work on Sundays and simply can't get away from that. Excuse me. A number of communities, Anglican, the Catholics, the Lutherans, have decided on Wednesday night to be their night to have their liturgy. And that would be what I would think first. The Twin Cities, all the Orthodox churches, and there's almost 12 of them. There's 12 of them, I think, 12 or 13 even, depending on if you count the Oriental Orthodox, which I do. Think about this for a moment. We have 13 Orthodox churches in the Twin Cities. We have the cathedral. It's open, has open office hours from 8 to 4. St. Mary's, it's the largest church. We have St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church in Minneapolis. It also has office hours from 8 to 4:30, and it tragically only has services one day a week. The cathedral offers currently a 9 a.m. liturgy on Thursday mornings. Now that's the two biggest churches. St. Herman's down in South Minneapolis. It's only open on Sundays. Going further south, you got St. Catherine's, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. You got the other Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is in northeast Minneapolis, whose name escapes me at the moment. St. Pantaleimons, Russian Orthodox Church, the Russian Skeet up in Fridley. So that's all just Minneapolis side of the river. And there's even more on the St. Paul side of the river. There's two Romanian Orthodox churches, St. Stephen's and St. Mary's. There's the Serbian Orthodox Church, St. Sava's. There is there's our church, the OCA Church. There's the Holy Trinity, which is another OCA church. There's St. George's Greek Orthodox Church. There's there's the Antiochian Orthodox Church over in the St. Paul side. And there's also the Armenian and Coptic churches over on the St. Paul side. And I believe I'm probably leaving out at least one of the Orthodox churches in the Twin Cities. The Twin Cities, I was looking this up online the other day, has almost as many Orthodox churches as Chicago does. I'm going to take a lesson I've learned from Salt Lake City and say that it should be applied to the Twin Cities. And that lesson is have services every day at least one Orthodox church. Why can't we do that? Why is that such a problem? I don't think the priests are so busy that they couldn't pull off an hour service at a church every day. And I think that if you build it, they will come, especially with regards to Wednesday night liturgies, which I think should be at a different church every Wednesday. You know, keep the schedule at the cathedral, keep the schedule at St. Mary's. But besides that, going through the week, we have Sunday, okay, we obviously have liturgy. Then Monday, we need to have a service at a church. There's 11 of them, 12 of them. Pick one. All we need to do is have the Pan-Orthodox website and actually have that Pan-Orthodox website work to pick a church that's going to have a service each week at their particular location and announce that on the Pan-Orthodox website for all the Twin Cities. This is how we can unite the Orthodox Church here in the Twin Cities, folks. This is not how we can unite it for the whole country or anything like that. This is just how can Orthodox Christians come together besides Focus, which is a great program, and it's doing wonderfully, and it's open every day, and I have to give it an enormous amount of credit. But how can we come together spiritually at other people's churches a lot? And that would the simple answer to that is to have services absolutely every day, without fail, at least one church. And brothers and sisters, I don't think this is beyond our capabilities. I think all it would take is a couple people. Myself, I would be perfectly happy to set up the websites and be the person that gets in touch with the different churches to find out who's going to hold the akathist to the Mother of God one particular night, or who's going to hold the the already blessed services during Lent, and who is going to hold the Paraclesis every night during the Mother of God Lent, and all kinds of celebrations that simply are not being celebrated here in the Twin Cities because for some reason we're keeping our churches locked. And by keeping our churches locked, we're sending a message to the community that the Orthodox Church is not open, which the Lutheran churches and the Catholic churches and things like that are also open. They are open during the week. The Anglican Church, St. Dustin's, the High Anglican Church, has its low mass on Wednesday nights, and its Bible study on Wednesday nights, and then it has its regular Sunday services. Wednesday night, just for some reason, is when groups and things and such seem to meet. And people were hardworking people that possibly may work on Sundays, or they may work on Saturdays so late that Sunday simply is just exhausting for them to go to church, should have an option on a Wednesday night or another night to make it a secondary, auxiliary, holy night to have services. And the truth is the Orthodox Church offers an enormous amount of different services that can be held besides the liturgy, and that includes things that don't even need a priest to do. There's Reader's Vespers, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's at least a service, and it keeps the church open. And I can tell you this much: the church fathers are all in agreement. Well, not all, but There's a lot of church fathers I can name off the top of my head. St. John Chrysostom is one of them, who says that praying in a church is much more efficacious for the soul than praying alone at home. Furthermore, our Orthodox churches we have should be opened up to groups like 12-step groups and other groups of faith that need homes. I'm not suggesting we open our churches and rent them out for political parties to meet or things like that. I think, though, we should open our doors to things like grief counseling groups, which St. Mary's is the only, St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church is the only one that offers anything like that, and it's very rarely offered. The cathedrals should offer programs like that. Basic catechism class, which should be offered constantly at least one church every week without fail. I mean, the way it used to work in Salt Lake City, and when I lived in Flagstaff, and Flagstaff's a small town, only 80,000 people, and only had one Orthodox church. And it had services 3 days a week. It had services, it had one day, and it would be random, would be the day where the father would do a service that he hadn't done before to a saint, or someone like an akathist. Wednesday we would have Bible study, and that would be when we would do the Paraclesis to the Mother of God. And then then obviously Saturday evening, Sunday morning. Saturday evenings are not well attended, unfortunately. I think, though, that if we were to move things to Wednesday evenings, they might be much more well attended. And Wednesday evenings, I think Wednesday evenings should be a liturgy myself, but it probably would work out even having it be Vespers, and then have the liturgy be at the cathedral every Thursday morning for people who are on the Minneapolis side. But we need to find a church, and there's so many of them, to do a liturgy every Thursday morning then on the St. Paul side of things. And it can't be only St. Elizabeth the New. Our priest is too busy. We have the Greek church. We have the Antiochian church. We have the other Greek church. We have the two Romanian churches. We have the Serbian church. One of these churches can open its gates on Thursday morning to have a liturgy. And then having Wednesday night be the night where there's a Bible study or catechism or adult education class at different churches. Wednesday night should be the big church for social events, should be the night where the gates open to these churches. Do you know, there's a very powerful message a church sends when it opens its gates and its doors are open. I love that Father Mark does this when he does the liturgy at my particular church, St. Elizabeth the New. What he does is he opens the doors wide open, and he rings the bells as loud as he can for the whole neighborhood to hear. And he doesn't care the fact that perhaps nobody is going to come. He does it anyway because that's what Orthodox churches are supposed to do. They're supposed to be calling all the people to come to worship. And if other churches followed this example, people would start taking notice of the Orthodox churches and maybe stopping by and seeing what was going on inside of there. And that's how people start becoming converts. That's how you do missionary work without really engaging in missionary work in an active, in-your-face style, which I dislike. And the way you bring people to your church is you have your bloody church open so people can come to it. And then we need a website in the Twin Cities that says Liturgy Monday, Akathista Mother of God, St. Mary's Romanian Orthodox Church, Father Mishka, phone number, address. That's it. Okay, Pan-Orthodox site, Tuesday, Akathist to St. John Maximovich at the Antiochian Orthodox Church in St. Paul, 7 p.m. Phone number, email, address. Wednesday night should be what I think the Bible study, catechism, whatever night. When churches have catechism, those types of things. A catechism / adult education after Vespers. Available at this church, St. Sava's Serbian Orthodox Church, St. Catherine's Ukrainian Orthodox Church, St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church, etc. Making the cathedral in St. Mary's Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, especially accessible would be important because they have office hours. But I think, the fact that we have 3 big churches over in St. Paul, St. George's, the Greek Orthodox Church, St. George's, the Antiochian Orthodox Church, and Holy Trinity Orthodox Church. We have 3 churches. There's no reason why they shouldn't have their gates open on Wednesday evenings. And then one of those churches should have the liturgy every Thursday morning, so that way on the St. Paul side, people don't have to drive as far to get to the only liturgy that's available during the week here in the Twin Cities, tragically, which is at the Cathedral of St. Mary's in Northeast Minneapolis. This is going to promote getting to know other priests and getting to know people from other churches. And as this continues, brothers and sisters, what we would have is an organic life form that would just take its own life, and we would start seeing needs people expressing and wanting more and more and more services and more Bible studies. And because there's, right now, currently, there's Ephesus School, which is something that's pretty much confined to our parish. And, I wrote Father a long proposal about how we should reach out to other parishes and try to get them involved in Ephesus School. And I hope he'll consider that. But right now, there's only one open Bible study in the Twin Cities run by Orthodox Christians. That's on Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Yes, that's not a very appealing time to have in a Bible study. So, if you have your Bible study on Wednesday night or something like that instead, or your adult education, instead of having your adult education before liturgy, having it during the week on Wednesday, so people have to come to church another day, I think they would do it. And especially if Vespers was offered first, and Vespers can be a beautiful service if it's done just simply and correctly. Or maybe the Paraclesis to the Mother of God is the service that's traditionally done on Wednesday nights in Orthodox countries. This is just trying to make the Twin Cities more Orthodox, because we are a surprisingly Orthodox city. We have a ton of Orthodox churches in this city, and we need to make use of them. Renting them out also for pastoral counseling and 12-step meetings and things like that. It's not that we're trying to be in competition with the other churches that do that, like the Lutherans and the Anglicans and the Catholics. We're just doing that because it would be wonderful to have a AA 12-step program that's mostly Orthodox Christians. It's a need that's out there, but it's not being covered. And why not have a 12-step meeting that is mostly Orthodox Christians? And of course, it'd be welcome to everybody, like AA meetings always are, but it would have a little bit of an Orthodox slant to it, because it would have mostly Orthodox people running it. And it just doesn't have to all fall on the priests. The priests only have to show up for the hour to celebrate the whatever. A lot of this has to fall on the laity to decide to teach a catechism class on a Wednesday night instead of staying home and watching Game of Thrones reruns. This is how we can develop Orthodoxy here in the Twin Cities, folks. I mean, I've thought about it a lot, and I look at the way Salt Lake City does it, and they only have 4 or 5 Orthodox churches. They're about 2/3 the size of us in terms of population, and yet every single one of the churches in Salt Lake City tries to have services as often as possible during the week. And yes, they're not that thickly attended, but I talked to my priest in my former church back in Salt Lake City about that, and I said, Father, having these weekday services, I mean, doesn't nobody show up at 8 a.m. in the morning? You have a divine liturgy on a Thursday or a Friday. I mean, how does that work? And he said, at first a lot of people didn't come. I'm not going to lie to you, but slowly people did start coming, because they could come before work, and people would like to pray before work, and people feel more comfortable praying with other people in a church than they do having to just being thrown to the wolves and doing it all by themselves alone with their with their icon wall and their whatever that they might have to pray alone. There is a time and a place for personal prayer, and that's at home, of course, on your own. But gathering as a community always is better. Always, always, always is a better idea. Because it says, when 2 or more are gathered in my name, I am there. There's a reason why we come together as people, as Christians. And in this society we have of unfriendly people, Minnesota is one of the most unfriendly states I've ever lived in, by the way. Unfriendly people who do not talk to each other, except for on church on Sunday. It'd be nice if, I ran into you at St. George's last Tuesday for the Akathist. How you doing? It'd cultivate friendships. It would cultivate people getting to know each other. Because people so rarely go to a church besides their home church. And they really could be doing that. And I think we owe it, especially to the Oriental Orthodox, who aren't like us, but are, to see what it would be like to go to, and by the way, the Coptic Church does offer a liturgy at 8 a.m. on Wednesday mornings right now. They're trying that to see if they can rope in English speaking people who might be interested in the Coptic Church, and I applaud them for that. The Armenian Church, we'd have to talk to them and see if they would be willing to offer services of some type during the week rather than on the weekdays, because we should go to our regular Orthodox Church on the weekends, on Sundays. But we could experience other people's Orthodox churches, and not just for occasional cone celebrations or when a special person is visiting the Twin Cities or things like that. And we need to heavily advertise these events. And this is how, uh, with a pan-Orthodox website, and the one that's we have right now needs to be fixed desperately. It needs to be bigger, shinier, better, and easier, and people need to know about it. People need to know that there's a pan-Orthodox website that has every single focus event on it, every single uh, service that's going on should be on the pan-Orthodox site. It takes would take 2 minutes to put your your monthly bulletin on the pan-Orthodox site. I'd be happy to do it. And with the pan-Orthodox site showing you where you can go to services, uh, even just saying, oh, Ephesus School offered after church, 15 minutes after church, or 20 minutes, or whatever. We need to kind of set our time probably at St. Elizabeth as being, 30 minutes after liturgy begins. Ephesus School, open to all. Say the open to all especially. So people say, hey, there's Old Testament Bible study going on at St. Elizabeth the New. Do you want to go there after liturgy today? Hey, why don't we try that out? Instead of us seeing each other only at our festivals, and which is really sad, to be honest, we need to see each other all the time at each other's churches every day during the week. There's no excuse the Twin Cities doesn't have that. Also, I would suggest that the two big churches, the churches that are open all the time, should maybe think about getting a prayer chapel that is open all the time during office hours so people can come in there for personal prayers. With not directed by anybody, just because it's nice to get out of your house and go and pray in a nice, clean church with pretty beautiful icons. It's just, there's something about that makes you feel better. When I lived in Salt Lake City for over 20 years, 3 blocks from where I lived was the Cathedral of the Magdalene, a Catholic church that kept its doors open from 8 to 4 just for people to come in and do personal prayer, and it was incredibly popular. And yes, you have to kick the homeless drunks out, and yes, you have to kind of monitor it, but it's not as much work as it sounds, and it would bring people to the churches. And I think we should open up one of the churches over in the Twin Cities to be the same, to be open to having 8 to 4 office hours and having a prayer chapel that doesn't have to be the main church chapel, full of icons, and doesn't have to be expensive icons, but just full of icons and a place to kneel and pray and stand and pray and, do what can only be done inside of a church. Our churches are tragically locked up all week, and we're paying rent on them, and we're not getting our money's worth from them either. So we need to open the churches. That's the way we could make it so we have a true pan-Orthodox community here in the Twin Cities. It doesn't matter really. I'm not going to get into the solutions in this podcast. I'm not going to get into why there should all be under one bishop and it should all be in English and everything. It is what it is right now. As they say in the Midwest, we should try to make the best of the situation and the fact that we have so many bishops and everything else, because we're all Orthodox. Going to one Orthodox church is just as good as going to any other Orthodox church. And we can meet people and get to know people and become friends with people outside of Focus, which is beautifully, Focus is the only place where Orthodox from all over different communities come together at this point. But I think we need to do it more with the services. That is my call out to the priests, to the laity, to the Oriental Orthodox brothers and sisters, to everyone in the Twin Cities who calls themselves an Orthodox Christian. Wednesday nights, Thursday mornings, and then minor services during the week. I know I'm repeating myself, but I feel passionately about this particular issue. I'm at 30 minutes, so we're going to close down for the day. This is just simply a good first podcast on how the Orthodox Church in the Twin Cities could function better. This is how we could fix things in a way that wouldn't require too much planning and efforts and things like that. It just would require somebody with a computer who's willing to put information on a website and to make sure that the website is announced by the priests every day at the end of church, and that perhaps the website's included in the bulletins. For services during the week, please see blablabla.com. So all you have to do, you don't have to put all the services in your bulletin during the week at other Orthodox churches. You can just see first other services held throughout the Twin Cities during the week. See blah.com. So I still hold by my proposal of us trying to meet with an Orthodox church, and the challenge of trying to meet with another Orthodox church to offer them the idea of Ephesus School. But I think we should wait for Ephesus School to kind of settle in before we tried something like that. But that is it. I hope everyone who's listened to this has enjoyed it as much as I have done making it. I hope they see the reason why this could be a beautiful thing. And through the prayers of all our saints and the Mother of God, have mercy on us. Christ, Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. May Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, have mercy on all of us, save us and deliver us. And may we come together truly as brothers and sisters, where as much two or more are gathered in my name, my church is present. So let's gather in his name more often and be better Christians.